Ministry, more like mid-istry. Am I right, folks? Alright then. Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Metal Meltdown. Today we are talking about a brand new studio album from industrial metal pioneers and icons, Ministry, entitled Hopium for the Masses. This is the 16th full-length studio album from the brainchild of one Al Jourgensen, who has repeatedly declared that this could be, that this may be, that this will be Ministry's final album. And with all due respect, right off the bat, I call your bluff, Al. You have said that several times over the course of the past decade. I will believe it when I see it. I would have no issue betting a pretty penny against you. But hey, in this instance, I really would not mind losing that aforementioned pretty penny. It would not bother me. I would not fret if I were proven wrong today, here, now, about this. Because quite frankly, Ministry's been kinda lame for a while now, like at least 15 years. I mean, sure, granted, records like With Sympathy, The Land of Rape and Honey, The Mind is a Terrible Thing to Taste, Psalm 69, wickedly cool, wickedly important to the development of industrial metal and industrial rock and the industrial music genre as a whole. I also like 1996's more divisive and experimental Filth Pig, and there's a decent amount of quality material within the so-called Bush era of Ministry. You know, the kind of mid-2000s to late 2000s period. But goddamn, folks, ever since 2012's Relapse, Ministry has been at best boring and at worst obnoxious and cringeworthy. With 2017's Americant being the still reigning champion sitting atop a golden throne on Shit Mountain. And though many would like to argue that not only was 2021's Moral Hygiene a colossal improvement, but also a full-blown return to the glory days of Ministry, I will respectfully disagree and argue that it is a little better, but not enough for me to go, damn, that was awesome. It's like, imagine if someone served you a plate of explosive diarrhea, and then they served you Taco Bell. Sure, one of them is a little bit better, but they're both still shit. And both of these albums, might I add, shit for more or less the same reasons, both of which are filled with derivative, one-dimensional, industrial metal songcraft, some slightly, tuned-out, phoned-in vocal performances from Al Jourgensen, and lyrics that, on surface level, appear to be tackling reactionary politics and the rise of white supremacy and white nationalism in the United States of America, and various social movements, and the Trump administration and all that, but they read as if they've been pulled from, the most chronically online Twitter liberals. There is genuine anger in those albums, but none of it is communicated in an effective or entertaining way. They have no impact, no spice, no flavor. And the same, unsurprisingly, in my opinion at least, can be said of Hopium for the Masses. I mean, it's almost as if I'm listening to Moral Hygiene all over the fuck again. And it's especially lame this time because it really just shows Al has absolutely nothing new or interesting to say. It's the same buzzwords, the same insults, the same rhetoric, the same metaphors, over and over and over again. It really could literally, truly be rinsed and recycled from Moral Hygiene, folks. Now, in a way, I do think that he thinks he has something genuinely thought-provoking and powerful to say. At the very least, he wants you to think that he does have something genuinely thought-provoking and powerful to say. Take, for instance, in the cut, Just Stop Oil, which, again, on surface level, appears to be about the oil industry. It appears to be about greedy, evil, billionaire oil CEOs and tycoons and the horrible impact that oil and gasoline has on the environment. But once you really start to dig into the lyrics, it's basically just, hey man, oil's bad. We should stop it. Naughty oil. Guys, we gotta do something about oil and the environment. Do we, Al? I never fucking noticed. Thank you. God damn it. Another great example, the track Aryan Embarrassment on surface level, is criticizing the rise of neo-Nazi and white nationalist movements within the United States, and how various groups of people and agencies and whatever the fuck else have unfortunately become complicit in their rise to power. But then you actually listen to the lyrics and you read the song and it's just Al kind of saying over and over again, guys, Nazis fucking suck, am I right? Guys, I don't know if you know about these things called Nazis. They've been kind of kicking around lately. Somebody's got to do something about that. That's so crazy. Like, if you came to me and if you told me that the day before any work had begun on this album, Al had turned on his TV for the first time in 10 fucking years and just wrote lyrics based on whatever reactions he had to the news articles of the day, I would fucking believe you. Musically speaking, this thing did not really fare much better. For the most part, we are talking about some very straightforward industrial rock and industrial metal progressions and riffs and beats. It doesn't help either that the mixing and mastering here gives this a very thin, empty, soft, hollow kind of feel and vibe. Like, guitars feel very subdued, the drums don't really have much impact whatsoever, vocals have a weird distance and echoey kind of effect to them, to the point where I genuinely questioned if, like, there was a microphone in one corner of the room and Al just stood in the other corner of the room yelling his lines and refused to move any closer. You've got BDE, which is quite possibly the most unenthusiastic and sluggish opening cut I've heard on any Ministry album to date. It relies on some very stale and repetitive industrial grooves and some very basic samples, some very poorly mixed and performed vocals on Al's part as well. There is this little brief section of what could have, in theory, been some pretty fierce, tight industrial thrash metal, but the incredibly weak production just nulls the impact entirely. Then there's Cult of Suffering, which just has a kind of like weird, schmaltzy, trippy, funky kind of delivery to it. Like, it feels like Al Jorgensen trying to write like a big show-stopping number for like a Disney movie. Like, it just doesn't work for me. I will say Goddamn White Trash, probably the best of the bunch here. Its more simplistic subject matter is actually better sold, I would say, by this more simplistic, reactionary kind of lyrical style that Al has unfortunately adopted, but whatever, it works here. I also do like that this thing has a little bit of genuine bite and bark to it. Like, it is kind of gritty and kind of dirty and kind of mean. It genuinely does kind of feel like we're finally tapping into the glory days of Ministry with this cut. The closing number, Ricky's Hand, a cover of an old Fad Gadget song, honestly was pretty solid as well. I like that we're leaning closer into like full-blown industrial and bringing in like all these weird mechanical sound effects and electronic soundscapes, and like the guitars are there only really to provide like contrast and extra spice. At the very least, it's 100 million times better than the Search and Destroy Iggy Pop cover from Moral Hygiene. I'm feeling a very soft, very light 2 out of 5 on this bad boy. If it weren't for Ricky's Hand and Goddamn White Trash, this would definitely, easily be a 1.5 out of 5. I guess if I really had to pick between this and Moral Hygiene, I would probably pick this, but I still dislike it for a lot of the same reasons. And at this point, I'm genuinely slightly annoyed and aggravated with how Al writes music. It's just so fucking lazy and basic. Like, it's genuinely mind-boggling to me that he can look at this wide variety of complex political and social and economic issues and then just give us the most basic fucking take and then slap a bunch of samples and guitars on it and call it a fucking day. I don't even care anymore if this actually is Ministry's final album. This is just the point where I clock out. Irregardless, I'm done. I'm hopping off the Ministry train. I will happily go re-listen to Psalm 69 and Pilf Pig and With Sympathy and all that, but I'm done. I'm good. Call me if Al ever decides to write something that doesn't essentially boil down to Orange Man Bad, the album. 2 out of 5, leaning heavily towards a 1.5 out of 5. Whatever. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be. So what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe right here so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. Look, there's even more videos here. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.